everyone, welcome to another Animation Friday. I'm going to be uploading this video today because I am not going to be here on Friday as well as Saturday and Sunday, so I'm going to be uploading all those videos today so you can all be happy with all of the videos that you would like to watch that are of mine. So without further ado, let me address what I wanted to talk about for this Animation Friday, and that is my favorite Disney female characters that are not princesses. So we're not doing princesses today. No, we're just doing girls. Like, they don't have a certain status. They're not part of the Disney canon. They're not marketed as Disney princesses. They're just girls, just regular females. But these, despite them being of not high status, they still offer, I think, a lot of interesting qualities to them, and usually we don't really address them all this much, even though they do kind of hold a huge significance a lot of the time within their films. But yeah, let's sort of get started and discuss the ones that I seem to find to be the most enjoyable and most interesting. First being Meg from Hercules. There's a lot of things that I think stand out about Meg that you don't traditionally see in a Disney princess or other Disney female character. She has this sassiness to her, and the thing that I like about her sassiness is it's not mean-spirited. It's not designed to be kind of I'm one of the boys, or ooh, I'm so cool, she just kind of has a laid back kind of sassiness. It's real fun to watch. I mean, it's entertaining. Like, she kind of uses her smarts as a way to be kind of sassy, like with how she expresses her words. Like Lily, when she introduces herself, she just does it in such a sassy way, but then it just comes off so goofy with her words because she's not really trying to be like egotistical. She's just kind of just being her quirky self, and in doing so having sort of a sassy approach in doing that. For example, she's like to Hercules the first time she meets him, she says, he asks her about her name, and she's like, Megara, my friends call me Meg. At least they would if I had any friends. She just kind of approaches things in that very kind of dry tone. But her words have a lot of wit to them, and I think that's where the sassiness becomes really interesting, because she approaches it in such a, oh yeah, that's just me. It's what I do. It's how I am. So I think that's just something that's very self-expressive. Like, she's self-aware of who she is. And the interesting thing, too, is she has a little bit of history. Usually Disney female characters, in particular ones that aren't princesses, don't really have so much of a backstory or have, like, a sort of, I guess, motivation to basically be who they are. They just kind of are the way they are. But with Meg, it's different because at least she does have kind of a backstory, and in doing so we kind of understand where she's coming from and why she's ultimately siding with Hades, who's the villain throughout the film. And that's something also that you don't see within a Disney female character. You never see a Disney female character usually side with the villain unless she is really the main villain or villainess, so to speak. But we never see one in this kind of, shades of gray area. And I think that's just something that's also really interesting. But you do kind of understand why. And she does ultimately end up having a dilemma within the film about it. And that's sort of her arc in a way. And you do see, the ultimate means that she sort of has to put up with as a result of her being under the influence of Hades' power. I think that's really something that's different and something that you usually don't see. And I really liked how they sort of did this within the film, because usually you don't see it all that often, where a female character is sort of in a predicament. Like, ultimately the character wants good, but they're influenced by maybe evil methods. And you sort of see how she kind of tries to redeem herself within the film. So that's, I think, something that's very noble and allows for development, because it's not like she just starts off as a complete goody two-shoe, and she has sort of a history, and in doing that you create something that's actually interesting as far as plot is concerned, because usually you don't see that. I mean, I've never seen a Disney female character intentionally side with the bad guy at some point. Usually they're just unaware that that person's the bad guy, or they are totally with the protagonist 100% of the time. So I think this was definitely a good approach. I mean, is Hercules the best Disney movie out there? Probably not, but at the same time, I think this was definitely a good move for them. And I still think Meg still stands out to be as one of the standout Disney female girls, that's not or women, who's technically not classified as a Disney princess. I mean, she's a goddess. She's got her own category. So I think that only makes sense, but regardless, she has something, I think, interesting to offer, and I really like how they use that approach that they ultimately do within the film. Is it accurate to how anything happened within the Hercules story? No, but at the same time, I liked their interpretation, how they put a spin on it a little. Because I think with art, you can do random interpretations. I don't think it necessarily needs to be tied with the source material, even though they're trying to adapt it from a source material. But I think that makes her all the more interesting. Yeah, I think the film did a good job of trying to do that. Even though I will admit it's probably not one of the best Disney films. A little bit over the top at times. But moving on to the next one, let's talk about Jane from Tarzan. Ah, yes, Jane. Jane from Tarzan. What I like about this character is that she has a real kindness to her. And with that kindness, she also has this quirky, goofy nature to her. I would say more goofy in the sense that, she ends up putting herself in situations where it's probably less than pleasant, and you do feel like she's out of her element, like, throughout the entire movie, because she's probably never been in the jungle before. But she seems to handle it really well. And also what I like, too, is I think they handle the damsel in distress element good. They actually make it funny. They actually make it engaging, and you want to watch the cliche, I guess, on the screen. Because, just the way that she handles the cliche is interesting. She's not whining, she's not complaining. She's freaked out, but at the same time, there's a certain amount of comedic effect where that she's sort of trying to survive in a way. For example, when she's she's telling Tarzan to finally put her down, she's like, "Put me down now, please." And then she sees all of the animals that are after her, and she's like, "No, pick me up." Pick me up again. It's funny, it's engaging. She knows that she's not in her element. She knows that she can't defend herself, really. I mean, she doesn't know the jungle like Tarzan does. So it only makes sense that she would be in this kind of a state. But I like how they don't, they don't poke fun at her. She kind of pokes fun at the whole situation and just kind of goes with it. And, she doesn't, yeah, she has maybe her tendencies to maybe overreact at times. But I think overall she has her flaws, but then she also has her virtues. And even her flaws are entertaining as well. And you've sort of seen how she is torn within the film, because on the one hand she really is passionate about her work, I think, with educating Tarzan and learning about the animals and things like that. But she's also torn between wanting to be in a world of sophistication and of maybe some luxury too. So again, I think there is that kind of dilemma that goes through her as well. But she understands at the end what's really more important. And I think that's something good for a female character to have. And I like that she is sort of the educational driver, and she maintains that supportive role, but she maintains it so well. And even though she might be a little bit of a damsel, that's not an issue, at all. It's actually, in fact, a part of her that makes it entertaining and makes it believable. Because a female character like this would probably exist during this time, like this, and be totally out of what's going on and not knowing what to do and how to act, but at the same time be sort of passionate because they're in this new world and it's something that they've always wanted to do and experience. So again, she is that kind of a character, and I think it definitely, for the film, works. Is Tarzan the best Disney film out there? I don't think so, but at the same time, Jane is, I think, a really good female character, and she's fun and entertaining to watch. And she tries to be sort of she tries to be very helpful to Tarzan, the main character. So she definitely serves her role well, and I enjoy her for that. Third female character, let's talk about Esmeralda. Now this character in particular has a lot of strength in the sense of, yeah, she kind of has the typical sort of gung-ho, not necessarily I'd say G.I. Jane level, but at the same time she kind of knows the fact, or kind of has this quality of being able to fight and use her, I guess, knowledge of combat with what was it, a candlestick holder thing she was using to fight. She kind of knows the streets, so to speak, which makes sense for a character like that. I think that's perfectly logical that she would have to kind of learn to survive, and it's kind of probably a really tough grit kind of environment that she's in, so only makes sense that she would be this way. What I like too about her character is she's not judgmental, and she totally sees the situation for what it is. Like when Quasimodo is being totally, pretty much verbally and I don't want to say, well, I guess you could say it's physical abuse if people are throwing stuff at you. But she sees the situation and she sees it for what it is and says this is completely ridiculous, and she sort of does something and stands up for him. And I think that's really good for any character to have, or regardless. I mean, it's nice to see. And she's also very supportive. I mean, she's supportive of sort of Quasimodo wanting to, kind of go out and experience the real world, and You know, she is supportive of really the righteous cause, and you know, she tries to not be intimidated by the villain. Um, Even at one point, literally when Frollo is like basically telling her, you know, choose me or die, and she just spits at him. You know, that just shows the amount of courage and adversity that she has, that she's willing to say no to what she believes is wrong. And I think that's definitely something good. She knows, she sees things for what they are. She sees things for what they are, and she stands up for what ultimately is right. Is she maybe a little bit too perfect? Does she kind of fall into the more Disney princess category at times? Maybe. But I still think she kind of has her flaws. I mean, oh, okay. Yeah, a little bit. Apologize, it's just my mom asking me something. So overall, I think she's a good rounded character. I guess her flaws would be sometimes she takes her her kind of snarkiness maybe a little bit too far. Um, is she maybe a little bit too sensual at times? Yeah, I could see that, and I could see that as maybe a flaw too, and you know what probably sparks Frollo's concern, and ultimately why he doesn't really, you know, has this really bizarre kind of feelings for her because of the way she kind of accentuates herself, especially within the beginning. You will see in the film. So I think there are some flaws there that can definitely be attributed to her. But I think overall, she's not trying to be. She's not trying to, you know, take power. She's not trying to, you know, you know, uh, she's not trying to, I guess, do her. Uh, she's trying to do ultimate good at the end of the day. Um, so I think overall her character works within the environment that she's in, and yeah, I think it's definitely a good Disney female girl. Now let's talk about someone that's a little bit different here. Wendy from Peter Pan. Um, what I like about Wendy in particular is she has a lot of innocence, and she also has a certain amount of charm to her. Um, and, you know, she has this very girly, feminine nature to her. You know, she's very talkative. I mean, at one point in the beginning of the film, you hear Peter Pan saying, "Girls talk too much." She's like, "Yeah, oh, yeah, that's right. Huh, I do that." You know, she kind of acknowledges sort of the fact that she is, you know, she has those kind of girlish quirks. Um, I also like um, how she kind of tries to defend herself, even if the situation may not be, uh, you know, in her favor. Like, for example, when, you know, the mermaids are being very intimidating to her and, you know, basically like messing things up for her, and she just kind of just tries to defend herself. And overall, I think there's a certain amount of wonder and sort of amazement that she has um, with the whole adventure that she experienced with Peter Pan, and I think there's a certain level of appreciation she has for it. And you can see that as part of her sort of development throughout the film. And she kind of stands up too, like when, you know, all the boys are like running over to, you know, join the pirates, and she's like, "Are you crazy? What are you doing? Why are you joining these people?" You know, I mean, she kind of takes on a little bit of that leadership as well as that kind of motherly figure at the same time. So there's a lot to her, I think, that maybe some people may not realize. And I think there's a lot to appreciate from her overall. So I think she is a good character as far as Disney is concerned. Second to last character, Alice from Alice in Wonderland. I like how she is curious. I also like the idea that she is somewhat vulnerable in this film. Like, she's in a place where she doesn't know how to get out of. She's confused. And at the same time, there is this sense that she wants to kind of improve herself. Especially when you see her sort of crying and being really sad within the film, and how she feels like, you know, every time she tries to do something right, it ends up going wrong for her. And at the same time, she realizes that sometimes those things can be her fault. And I think that kind of acknowledgement is usually something we don't see in a lot of female characters, in particular characters in general. I mean, you know, we don't see that very vulnerable side to protagonists usually. And in this film, we do see this huge vulnerability, and it sort of has a big impact throughout the film. And I think it's definitely one that makes her character very interesting and at the same time likable. And she at the same time is trying to figure out at the end of the day, like, what to do, what to say, and all of that. And I think she has a certain amount of wit to her. And I think she ultimately kind of, you know, learns a lesson throughout the whole thing, like that, you know, you sort of get what you wish for. If you want something out of the ordinary, you'll get out of the ordinary, and then you'll know what to do. And then we see the vulnerability and the inability to find solutions. But at the same time, we end up wanting to kind of improve ourselves so we don't end up in those situations. And that's, I think, really good for a character to have. And so I think Alice definitely fits the bill for that. The last character that I want to mention is a big one that I think a lot of people enjoy, even though the film itself is probably a little bit overlooked by Disney. And that is Lilo from Lilo and Stitch. Again, she is kooky, this character. She's wild, she's rambunctious, she is rebellious, you know, she can get on your nerves sometimes, you know. This character, I think, embraces a lot of characteristics that we see from a lot of children characters. But I think overall, this character in particular, Lilo, I think ultimately is one that is sort of trying to kind of find her place, because she's so abnormal from the other children, and, you know, is kind of bullied by the other girls, and, you know, is kind of an outsider. And, you know, the fact that Stitch and her form this kind of relationship shows you sort of how, you know, people can find one another in unexpected places, and that's kind of usually, and kind of how it usually happens within films. And this is how it, and that's pretty much how it happens within Lilo and Stitch. And I think she kind of, you know, she learns to, I think, appreciate her sister a lot more. I think she learns to kind of cope with the loss of her parents. I think there is a sense of growth to her by having that experience with Stitch and with the whole plot associated with the aliens. And I think it's definitely a character that is identifiable. I think a lot of children can relate to Lilo in some way, because she is odd. She's not the typical kid, And I think that's why a lot of people gravitate towards her. And I can see why, and I think it definitely works for this kind of a film that they created and the kind of scenario that they set up with. But yeah, those are all the female girl characters that I wanted, or female women girl characters that I wanted to mention for this video. But that's, I think, ultimately all I can say. However, for this video, however, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.